Grace, a 15-year-old Black high school sophomore, was sent to juvenile detention during COVID-19 for not doing her homework. She was released after 78 days. 5-year-old Helen was separated from her grandmother upon arriving to Texas from Honduras and detained for 2 months. Mahmoud, a 13-year-old Palestinian, was shot and arrested by Israeli soldiers as part of the military occupation of Palestine. The Task Force on Criminalization of Children and Youth reports on how these stories are part of a larger system of injustice, which demonizes and racially targets children and youth of color. Profit-making is at the heart of social systems which turn children and youth into commodities devoid of human value. Military industries receive billions in corporate contracts from the Department of Defense and in turn influence military policy. 9/11 ushered in a war on terror, the longest war in US history. The enemy in the war on terror changes with the political winds and financial interests. The war on terror has a domestic front with the militarization of border control and the demonization of immigrants as a threat to our society. Local police departments have been militarized and federal law enforcement enlisted to control Black Lives Matter protests in cities across the country. In the name of national security, children and youth are sent to privately run migrant detention centers like Homestead in Florida. In the 1980s, political opponents to civil rights fabricated a war on drugs, leading to the expansion of US prisons and corporate privatization of the industry as a virtual war on brown and Black people. Inequity and underfunding in education has created a school-to-prison pipeline. The legacy of slavery and this new form of racial control is chronicled in Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow. Remembering Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., Alexander has spoken out on Palestinian suffering, connecting global military injustice to domestic inequality. Up to 700 children, Palestinian children, are arrested annually by the Israeli military. Children are often apprehended in their homes late at night, are tied, blindfolded, and interrogated as criminals. The criminalization and incarceration of children does not just happen by coincidence, but is part of systemic racial injustice. This is a critical issue of faith for the Church. We invite you to read the full report on the conference website.